Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Flixwatcher Podcast. I'm Kobe.
I'm Helen.
Today we have Cathy and Dave from the Cinemile, which is also an excellent podcast, and we're all talking today about Manhattan, the excellent but creepy Woody Allen film.
Come find us on Twitter at Flixwatcher Pod. Visit the website flixwatcher.tv for full listings, and don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us an awesome review.
All the films were available on Netflix at the time of recording. There was going to be bad language, there's going to be spoilers, and we hope you enjoy it. See you later.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Flixwatcher Podcast. With us today we have Cathy and Dave from the Cinemile podcast. If you want to say hello, guys.
Hello. Good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is exciting.
Do you want to sort of give us a little bit of information about yourselves and a little bit of info about the podcast that you do?
Who are we? Well, we're married.
Congratulations.
That seemed almost apologetic. We are married.
Sorry. Yeah, we're married. So I don't know. I just I wanted to do a podcast for a long time. I was trying to get Cathy to do one with me. She didn't have any interest, and then I just came up with the idea of let's record our walks home from the cinema, because we were going every week anyway. We got one of those unlimited passes, and she said yes. That's to both marrying me and doing the podcast. And so yeah, it's that's our podcast. It's the Cinemile. We walk home from the movies, often in the rain, like yesterday.
It's only going to get worse as the summer comes, as the summer goes.
I think
exactly.
so.
We
Yeah.
started it in May, so we started in fair weather conditions. But it's really fun. We love doing it, and we go to the cinema all the time anyway, so it's quite an easy one to do.
Kills two birds with one stone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we haven't done anything as professional as this yet.
No, you guys have a nice setup here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, I like the way you took it home to your mum in Ireland for everybody.
Oh, you
Watson.
listened to that one?
I've listened. Like I said, every film I've
Oh.
seen, I've listened to it.
That was my favourite episode.
Was it?
I ditched Dave and just did
Oh,
one with
thanks.
my mom. Yeah. And then my mom came and did another one. We did a Star Trek review with my mom as well, which is quite fun.
Which is my favourite one.
Yeah.
Is it?
So
Yeah.
she adds an extra dimension
Cathy's
to it.
mom's review of
Yeah.
Star Trek is amazing because she didn't understand what was happening.
Sounds great. So we are here today with Cathy's choice, and your choice is Woody Allen's classic Manhattan. So tell us, why did you choose this film?
Yeah, I'm so regretting choosing it now, because I'm sure you guys know way more about Woody Allen than I do. I chose it because I know it's a classic. We were flicking through Netflix looking for something to watch, and it was quite a short duration, which for me is a huge...
It's a huge bonus.
It's a huge bonus when movies aren't long. And I liked that it was in black and white, and I wanted to see it, and I thought it would be a good one to chat about. And then afterwards, I was like, oh crap, I'm sure these guys know a lot more about Woody Allen than I do, so I shouldn't have done it. But yeah, so that's basically why I picked it. I know that it's, very highly regarded. I like Danny Hall, and it was a short duration.
You'd be amazed how many of Cathy's decisions are based on the duration of the movie.
Yeah.
It's got an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a good length
It's a good
for any
length.
film. Yeah,
Well, I've not seen Hateful Eight yet because I know it's 3 and a bit hours.
don't see that.
Don't see it.
I've
okay.
warned you.
Oh, we watched it last week.
We watched it last week
Anyway,
for the first
topic
time.
for another
Yeah.
day.
We did it
watched
in 2
last
parts.
week.
That's
You
the way
did
to
it
do
Yeah,
it.
we did it
Okay.
in 2 parts.
Yeah.
It was too long.
I mean, the reasons why you chose to watch it are kind of the reasons why we're all here and we're talking about Netflix, because it is a case of sitting down, flicking through it and going, oh, I haven't seen that. It's meant to be really good.
We've got an hour and a half before bed. Let's see what's going on.
Yeah.
What we can squeeze in.
Yeah.
So, what did you think?
What? Give us a synopsis first.
I've written the synopsis down so that I could make sure it was concise enough. So, twice divorced TV writer Woody Allen dates a teenage girl, which is surprising for him, before falling in love with his best friend's mistress, Mary. And it's set in Manhattan, and it's set when it's shot, so kind of mid to late 70s in New York. And some people have called it a love letter to New York by Woody Allen. Some people call it a creepy movie of an older man dating a younger woman. So yeah, that's the synopsis.
So what were your kind of general vibes, guys, as you were watching it?
I started writing down notes, which I don't normally do for our podcast because ours is as soon as we leave the cinema. So this was quite fun, I thought, to actually make notes about something. My first impression was that it was quite funny. The opening sequence when the writer is writing and rewriting his opening paragraph of his novel. And it was very Woody Allen in that it was very neurotic and, well written. And that was my first impression. But as it went on, I don't know. I mean, it was shot beautifully and I liked the music. I was just too creeped out by the central relationship to really, with looking at it with today's eyes, I think, as opposed to looking at it back in 1977 when it would have been quite a different thing. I was kind of slightly grossed out for the whole movie. So what did you think about it?
Well, I'm quite a big Woody Allen
Okay.
fan. I've seen probably all of them, the good ones, the bad ones, and not so good ones. And I saw this probably 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. So slightly different eyes then. And I still think it is one of his best films. It is his best film. It's not my favourite. And I rewatched it last night just because I do really like it. And it is quite funny. But yeah, it's something you watch it now and it's just, it kind of feels a little bit strange. And there's a couple of bits between Woody Allen and Mariel Hemingway that they just don't quite sit well anymore. But in the opening sequence, if you had to kind of define Woody Allen in the 70s, then the opening sequence would be
That
it's
of
quintessential
Manhattan.
Woody Allen.
Gershwin, voiceovers, Manhattan, that kind of thing. It's really hard. So I do still think it's a great film, but repeat watching it now is a lot different from when I used to watch it.
Yeah.
Quite a few times.
Because it's quite interesting you said when watching it with modern eyes, but I can't think of a time when a 42-year-old dating a 17-year-old as a central concept in the film actually was like...
Acceptable.
Yeah.
I know, and it's in the movie, like, so the main characters are all accepting of it as well. Nobody's like, that's disgusting. Like, Yale's his wife, she's like, yeah, cool, no big
she's
deal.
not
She
young.
says, I wrote down the quote that she said. She said about the 17-year-old, so her and Yale are having the conversation after they've met her for the first time. She goes, I think she's nice, very intelligent. Nobody at any stage mentions anything about inappropriateness. It feels like it's Woody Allen's voice as a writer normalizing the fact that an old man dating a 17-year-old is okay. But I wonder, was it, back to your point about like in the 70s, would it have been viewed as acceptable by the audience then, or?
I mean, when I watched it the first time round, I don't really remember focusing on that relationship as much. It was more the relationship he had with Diane Keaton.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
interesting.
Because it's the best bits are the bits between him and her.
Yeah.
And that's what they basically did for however many years that they were together and making films. So my memories of it from watching it all those years and years ago is just the different relationship they have, because in each film they made together, they've had completely different relationships. And even though you can argue they kind of played the same characters, they never quite did. And it's a different Diane Keaton and Woody Allen performance than there is in Sleeper, and the different is played against Sam. So in my memory, it's more about their relationship, and she's just kind of like sideline character because she's not very interesting.
Well, the 17-year-old Mariel Hemingway.
She's kind of like pushed to the side. She's not very exciting. He ditches her anyway, and she's just not very exciting or sparky.
But then in a moment of loneliness, he tries to get back together again.
Yeah.
Which was quite funny.
Which I always forget it ends like that.
Yeah, it's a weird ending. So do you
Yeah.
find watching it, so when you were younger you were focused on him and Diane Keaton, and do you think now when you watched it you focused more on the other relationship?
Yeah, I was just a bit like, oh yeah, this isn't quite how I remembered it.
It's interesting because I was in research for this. I read this LA Times article, and it was a writer who, the article was something around him being a creep, but the writer was saying the exact same thing as you. She said when she was like 17, it was her favourite movie and she obsessed over Diane Keaton and she loved it all, and then she had watched it back last year and was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was only kind of watching it in the last sort of maybe 5 years or so when I've rewatched it and gone, yeah.
Is this-
I can't, yeah.
Is this
That did
post-
happen, but that wasn't the thing that was the least interesting bit of the story for me.
This is post
bizarrely.
Jimmy Savile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, and post Soon Yi, right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, a lot of what's
his-
happened in Woody Allen's personal life, it's kind of hard. It's difficult often to separate the artist from the art. When he's had, I mean, obviously he's never been conclusively charged with anything, but those allegations do hang
over,
him.
yeah.
Yeah, they shut. There's too strong a light on it for me now watching it. But you hadn't seen Manhattan before, Dave, had you?
No, I hadn't. And I really liked it. I thought it was very beautiful, as you said. I loved the black and white style. I loved all that. I mean, we're looking at an amazing shot of him and Diane Keaton's first date when they're looking out over the.
And that's the shot of the Queensborough Bridge.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's the iconic shot of.
That bench isn't there anymore. Apparently.
Is it not?
Oh no!
So yeah, I think you could go and stand there, but I don't think you can sit there anymore and do that.
But I really liked it. I thought it was very funny. I mean, look, he's an incredible writer. He's got such a way with dialogue, and it's just it was a great romantic comedy. I liked it the way it sort of poked fun at the intellectual art scene of Manhattan. I thought it was slightly satirical.
Yeah.
About those characters. Particularly, there's a scene where he meets Diane Keaton, I think, for the first time in the art gallery, and he keeps trying to come up with these
trying to impress her.
Trying to impress her, and she just shoots him down with every line. I mean, I didn't understand a single one of the references.
No.
I don't know anything about art.
She called Vincent Van Gogh.
Yeah, and
that was funny.
It was pissed off with that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was one of the main tirades during the film. Van Gogh.
Yeah. Dave, you were lost at that point.
Must have nipped out at that point.
No, but I thought, I mean, generally, when I saw this first time about 10 years ago, and I quite liked it, but my favourite Woody film, I think, is Annie Hall. And I think
that's every that's a lot warmer.
Yeah.
Than this.
And I don't remember the first time watching it thinking 17-year-old with the 42-year-old. I don't remember it being icky. I thought maybe it was a bit strange. I think post Project U Tree and all the Jimmy Savile stuff, that maybe makes things a lot more icky nowadays. Mm-hmm. But I don't think when I watched it again, I don't think I really bought into any of the relationships in it, because the whole Yale's having an affair with Diane Keaton, and Woody doesn't seem that bothered about it. If my best mate was having an affair with someone,
I know,
I'd be like,
I thought
dude,
that.
what on earth are you doing?
Yeah.
This is not
New York in the 70s.
Yeah,
Everyone was having affairs. I don't know. We weren't there.
We weren't there at all.
Yeah, I made a note of that actually. One of my notes just says, "This is gross. A man's cheating on his wife, another man sleeping with a 17-year-old." And are we supposed to care about them?
Did you care about them?
No, not at all. Did you care about them?
No. I mean, it's kind of hard to care about a lot of the characters because they kind of are slightly over the top characters anyway. Mm-hmm. I mean, I really love Meryl Streep in it.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, true.
Unexpected actually. We didn't know she was in it.
No.
Yeah, so there's things like that. They're really great characters on film, but they're not really very realistic. Mm-hmm. But they really work for kind of his films, and like the humor in it. When he's much, much funnier, he can be incredibly funny. This is probably just a little bit... It's not got the warmth that Annie Hall's got,
no.
I don't think. And it's not got the slapstick that a lot of the really, really funny ones has. It looks amazing.
Yeah, visually it's good.
I agree with you. I think it's a cold film. I mean, it kind of looks cold. I think that scene that it's focused on is a cold scene anyway, isn't it? That intellectual art scene of... He says, having never experienced it.
Yeah.
Not knowing who Van Gogh is. I would like to see this in the cinema over... Because I watched it on my 32-inch widescreen TV most recently. And I think it would look great in the cinema. And I think that would perhaps make it a bit more warmer reception of it from my point of view. Because the postcard vignettes at the start look fantastic. Mm-hmm. Manhattan looks amazing. Generally, films in black and white, they kind of add that extra kind of... dignity, soups on awesomeness or whatever. But I thought the best line of the story for me, best part of the film was Woody Allen's ex-wife Meryl Streep and the book that she was writing.
Yeah, that was interesting. I wanted to know more about that book.
Yeah, and his neurosis around that and stuff like that. I thought that was the best part of it.
Yeah.
And actually we watched it quite sadly at home. We have this projector, so we basically watched it on a cinema screen on our wall, and it looked beautiful, but it certainly didn't. I didn't find that it warmed it up at all.
I did not.
No. It was like, oh, visually this is amazing. It was almost like being in like a film studies class and saying, oh, this looks fabulous and isn't the music wonderful? But it was nominated for Best Screenplay, which I don't buy. I don't see that it would have deserved a nomination for that. And she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, the younger girl.
Yeah.
And she really, for me, was the only person on screen. I agree with you, her character was dull, but physically she lit the screen up, which nobody else really did for me.
And she brought quite a lot of emotion to it.
Yeah.
I thought she was the most empathetic character I found, particularly towards the end. She's the only one who really has much of a journey or learns anything as well. You know, she's about to go to London after he's convinced her to, and then he tries to stop her at the last minute.
She's more mature than the grown-up.
Yeah, definitely.
And we were just screaming at the screen like, "Go to London, please!
Please
Don't
God.
stay with Woody Allen."
Then I was Googling afterwards, because I didn't read anything beforehand, but I was Googling afterwards, and she claimed in her memoirs last year that he tried it on with her after the movie.
Yeah, I read that.
So it's like, oh, Woody is just...
So during the filming, she was 17, but when she turned 18, Woody like approached her parents and said, "Can I take you to France?"
Oh, God, he's so disgusting.
France.
To Paris. So romantic. Yeah, and she was like, no.
Yeah, it is difficult. As a Woody Allen fan, it is quite a conflicting thing to obviously have the cinema there, and he has made some fantastic films, and then you just kind of wish that Hollywood would say, no, stop now.
I know.
Yeah, we can't do this anymore, but you know, they're not going to do that. But also the whole thing, I was just going to make a comment on that, the age gap. In Hollywood, people are not being cast as partners, or they're being cast with such completely bonkers age gaps anyway. There's stories about Maggie Gyllenhaal being too old to play such and such's girlfriend or partner, and the age gap is very small, and yet they're happy for a 20-year-old actress to be a girlfriend to a 55-year-old male. It's kind of like...
Yeah, it is more prevalent there anyway.
It's kind of a Hollywood thing, so I guess Hollywood then is exactly the same as it is now, and they don't really consider, you know, that it might be wrong that someone so young should be dating an older man. It's never really the other way round, that it's a young boy with an older woman. It's just very
I was thinking
Hollywood
that
standard.
would it have been. I was trying to work out if it'd be as icky if it was the other way around. You don't think it would be?
I think there'd be more uproar about it.
But
really?
I think often with Hollywood, when they have people a lot older, for example, something like The Graduate, I think there was actually a very small age gap between them in real life.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't that big a gap. And other movies where you have a man and a woman playing love interest, and say the man's like 20 years older, they don't actually call it out as such in the movie.
they
They
don't
imply
mention it.
they're around the same age. Whereas this movie explicitly said the year he was born. It explicitly repeated that she was 17 quite a few times. So he really wanted to make us know the age gap. Whereas when you're watching a movie, and The Graduate's a specific example because that's about an older woman. But if you're watching a movie, say, or Harrison Ford is, I don't know,
17,
Anne Hesh, right? Such an old crap example of that movie. But the movie isn't about him being
Which film are you
25
talking
years
about
older
now?
than her. Anne Hesh
6
and Harrison
Days,
Ford,
7
6
Nights.
Days, 7 Nights.
Okay.
It's not about him being older than her. It's almost that they've just done that in the casting. Whereas this movie was both in the casting and explicitly about him being older than her. Which he really wanted to normalise that. And he mentioned what year he was born, didn't he, in the movie? I remember that, and I was thinking, why are you saying that?
Well, he kept on saying, Lisa's, you know, I'm 42, she's 17.
Yeah, he kept
And
saying
he kept on
it.
saying, you're just a kid, you're just a kid. You're
Yeah,
just a kid.
and he.
Which has got to be a bit depressing, hasn't it?
It is the only film that I'm just trying to think of other films. It is the only film where there is this kind of situation, I think, because most of the other films, well, after this, it was mostly Diane Keaton, and then it was Mia Farrow as well.
Yeah.
And then sort of in the 90s, he kind of stopped acting so much, and there's never been, that I can remember, that I've seen another story with this kind of focus on the age gap. So it is only this film really that it's kind of, it's the thing. So
explicit.
it's not repeated in any particular way.
Well, there is that film that he did called, I think it's called Whatever Works, with Larry David.
I've not seen that one.
And so, because generally what he does now, he doesn't act in his films, but there's always like a Woody replacement, whether it's Owen Wilson or Larry David. And so Larry David is an old guy. I don't know, but I don't think it's ever made apparent what the kind of age difference was.
But it was just there.
But it was kind of there.
And Magic in the Moonlight, Colin Firth and
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone. That's quite an age gap as well. Though
definitely.
Again, it wasn't necessarily
part of the plot.
part of the
or
plot.
explicit.
And apparently, and I haven't seen Cafe Society, apparently there's a similar plot in it with Steve Carell and Kirsten Stewart. Again, they just happen to be together. It's not mentioned. Because I was interested watching this to look back and figure out, is it in all his movies, or am I just imagining it's in all his movies? Because I think I'm applying a seedier layer to it than I need to. But even in his new show that just debuted on Amazon, apparently there's a similar older man, younger woman thing as well.
Maybe just got to write about what you know, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone challenged him at Cannes in Cafe Society. Somebody in the audience said, "Why are you writing about older men and younger women?" And he said, "I can't hear you. My hearing aid's not working." He completely deflected the question.
Still got it.
Yeah.
So what kind of Woody films you guys seen recently that what's your favourite ones that you've seen in the past kind of 10 years?
I really like Midnight in Paris.
Yeah.
That is very good.
Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
it's amazing.
excellent.
And it almost, bits of it were like a Woody Allen movie, but bits of it were like a completely new,
Yeah.
new movie. He wasn't just repeating the same thing over and over again.
I just I liked it was a kind of a love letter to that
Paris,
era of
yeah.
to Paris and to that sort of the golden era of literature.
Yeah.
It's really well cast.
Hemingway
So
and all
fun,
that.
yeah. And
That's-
anything
F.
with
Scott
time travel.
Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. And Blue Jasmine was amazing, which we saw when we
yes,
were living in
that was
Sydney.
excellent.
We went to the opening of it we did watch an interview with Kate Blanchett live talking about it, which may have skewed us to liking the movie more because we were
And
so
she looks
enthralled by her.
incredible in real life.
Yeah, she was.
She just you see her and it's like that's a movie star.
Yeah.
Wow.
So but I thought Blue Jasmine was really good. I really liked that.
If you like that one, then you might like Melinda and Melinda as well.
Oh, okay, I haven't
And
seen
then-
that one.
I
Yeah.
quite like Melinda.
No, me
I think
neither.
it's a
Yeah.
cool story.
And then I also really, really like The Sweet and Low Down, which has got Sean Penn in it and Samantha Morton.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty good.
It was in the 90s, wasn't it? I haven't
Yeah.
seen it.
And Sleeper is really good.
Is that the sci-fi one?
Yeah, Take
Yeah.
the Money and Run is a really good sort of one of his earlier kind of screwball ones as well, which it's just quite laugh a minute. And then Play It Again, Sam is one of my favourite ones, which is where he's basically mentored by Humphrey Bogart, and it's Diane Keaton as well. And it's very sweet, it's very funny, and it's just got a lot of very laugh out loud moments.
I have not
Amazing.
seen enough.
So
Woody Allen films.
we picked I picked the Manhattan just because it was there on Netflix.
But that's how people pick stuff,
picked
isn't
the
it?
worst
Yeah.
one of us.
It's not really the worst. It
So
is.
people say it's his best one, weirdly.
What is
I
it?
think people would probably argue differently now. I mean,
Yeah.
at the time it was.
It was so critically acclaimed. I was reading all the old reviews, and yeah, I think now if he brought it out, it would be panned.
I mean, Hannah and her sisters is another one that's kind of relationship based. I think Michael Caine's in that
oh,
one.
I like that one. Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
that one.
and I think that is better at relationships and affairs and all of that kind of business than Manhattan is, I think, in the execution overall.
He didn't like this film, did he? When it came out,
Oh, really?
yeah, he wanted to can it and do a whole new film, and the studio were like,
No.
no, I'm going to put this out because it's ace, and it's like, no, I don't want it to come out. So it's quite interesting that I don't know what the reasons were. Maybe
Maybe he was thinking, oh, I've said too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've shown all my inner desires.
it's like 17.
Actually, do you know what one we watched that was really bad a few years ago? To Rome with Love. It's terrible.
Yeah, I try to not. I've watched a lot and I've sat there and gone, oh God, Woody, stop it.
Yeah, it's
And
really bad.
I tend not to watch the ones that get anything less than about sort of average 3-star because I just can't do it.
Okay, yeah, it would hurt you as a fan, I think. And also, I liked Magic in the Moonlight, but nobody else liked it that I spoke to.
I've seen that one.
Yes, the Colin Firth and Emma Stone one, and it's set in I think it's set around the 50s in France. I liked it,
Okay.
but it was ridiculous.
He's busy.
Is
now,
it
isn't
on
he?
Netflix?
Yeah,
I don't know if it's on
okay.
Netflix.
If it's on
saw it
Netflix,
at
I might give it
cinema.
a go.
Yeah, but his new show, A Crisis in 6 Scenes, is universally now been panned, and he himself said, I want nothing to do with it, I should never have agreed to do it, I wish I'd never made it. So it's similar to this Manhattan. And yeah, apparently Netflix or Amazon, not Netflix, paid him a lot of money for it, and apparently it's like one of the biggest turds ever put to screen.
I shall not watch that.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna. I don't want to ruin any more of kind of like
don't.
Woody magic.
But he said
by-
it's set in the 60s because he's just forever looking backwards.
Well, if you think about something like Midnight in Paris, like it's obviously set in the present day, but there's no technology, there's no real kind of mobile phones, and even his kind of modern day films are still. It's kind of hard to place them in time, other than kind of the fashions, because there's not really any internet or there's not really any mobile technology or anything like that. So they kind of have this sort of weird timelessness about them that is. The only other director who does that is like Wes Anderson.
Yeah,
so
it
they
doesn't-
just create these. He creates these kind of universes that are exclusive for kind of his characters, and they exist well in that universe because he makes it like that. So they can be these neurotic, slightly nostalgic characters, really focusing on literacy, art, music, passion, Paris, New York, or this romanticism and in this sort of universe he creates.
Do you kind of feel smarter when you like a Woody Allen film if you understand things that are going that are happening in it?
I think I did when I was a film studies student,
Okay.
and I got like the Marshall McLuhan references
Well, this is
and
it,
things
yeah.
like that.
Because in
It's-
Annie Hall, when he pulls Marshall McLuhan, I was like,
Yeah.
I know what that is. I know what's
and
going on
that
there.
to the audience, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of it. And
I
you
don't know what that is even now.
But that's what I think.
So now I feel stupider. It's
But
having
I
the
think he's
opposite effect.
Oh,
I think
sorry,
he's a bit of I think he's an immature person, and I think he is immature in the sense of things like that, because you love it when you get it, but actually it's a bit exclusion. Like, why are you excluding the majority of your audience from
Enjoying the film.
your own scenes? I find that weird, and I think part of the immaturity or the refusal to grow up, Peter Pan syndrome, is that like refusing to admit to the present and just always harking back to the past and always being nostalgic and refusing to ever admit, any wrongdoings in your life. And I know I'm blurring the personal and the professional again, but it's weird. All the stuff around his own daughter making allegations against him and his son making allegations against him. And I think it's just impossible in 2016 to watch them now without thinking. It would be almost good to get somebody young who doesn't know who he is and doesn't know the scandals, and just get them to watch the movies and see what they think.
Yeah.
So you think?
Would they
Do you think
it's
it's
a crap movie, or would they really like it?
I think anyone under the age of about, 17 would not watch this.
Yeah.
I honestly think if they came across it on Netflix, they might make it through the opening.
Yeah.
But it is just people talking for an hour and a half
Yeah.
in
Just
black
like-
and white.
It's black and white, isn't it?
true.
Yeah.
And actually, one of my notes is that if it feels like a long 90 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that. I thought, okay, come on now, I get it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I really did like some of the. I think it did work well in black and white. If this
Yeah.
was colour, I think I'd perhaps have less warmth for it at all. And
It would look awful as well, because
Yeah.
it would have been filmed in colour
Yeah.
in the 70s, so it just would probably be a bit
Yeah.
Yeah.
garish.
It'd be that
Yeah, it'd be
mucky
ugly,
New
wouldn't
York
it?
brown.
Yeah.
I did love
Yeah.
the fashion, like the baggy flares and I enjoyed the fashion in it. You know, when something's actually made in the 70s as opposed to set in the 70s. So the flares aren't as pronounced as what they would be in a kind of 70s rehash,
Yeah.
but you can just make it out in the silhouette of the clothes. And I was like, wow, he looks young in this. You forget. I mean, he's 42, but he's a young-looking 42, to be fair.
do you think so? Or
I think he did, until he was sat next to a 17-year-old. And then he didn't.
which is half
most
the
of the
film.
And I'd love to know what you think as such a Woody Allen fan, because I really don't like Diane Keaton's performance in this at all. So I just thought, oh God, here she goes again.
Her character is... she's not in it enough, really, but her character is not one of the best ones. She's slightly better when she's playing a little bit more ditzy than because obviously she's meant to be quite intellectual in this, and doesn't quite work as well, especially when you've seen her in Annie Hall, which is a much better performance.
Really endearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do like her in this, but I think I just like her in every Woody Allen film, so
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
kind of like,
A bit biased on it.
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit.
She is quite an unlikable character. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how we're introduced to her. I think as the movie goes on, she becomes a little bit more endearing. I think I was somewhat endeared by the fact she couldn't make her mind up.
What, between
kept-
Woody and
yeah.
and Yale?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
I wanted to
that
say,
made her
don't
feel
pick either,
real.
girlfriend. Please.
She should have gone to London as well.
Yes, go to London. Anyone that Woody gets involved with should go to London. But I thought, because there's some really cool scenes like in the planetarium, and some of the shots I thought were really nice with the
Yeah.
silhouettes when they're talking to each other, and they were both kind of like saying, should we go for a drink there, or should we go and get a drink? And that's when they could have first kissed, kind of thing. And
Yeah,
there's
that was
some-
good.
And there's some shots in his original apartment when Mariel Hemingway was on the sofa and he was coming down the stairs. I thought there's some really cool, really kind of nice shots in there, and I think that's what has carried it through. And it would kind of if this was on at the Prince Charles Cinema and I had a bit of time walking past, I'd probably go and watch it again. But I can't see myself putting on Netflix again anytime soon.
Yeah, probably not.
No.
No.
I wouldn't be rushing back.
Or yourself,
No.
Ellen, with that.
I mean, I've got it on DVD, so I watched it on DVD just because it would have been bigger on the TV. So I've got it on video and I've got it on DVD. So
Wow.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
you must have been really pleased when I picked this.
Oh well,
were.
considering some of the choices we've had so far, I was a bit like, oh, okay.
You
But
kept
I
saying
was-
Manhattan, Woody Allen's
Yeah.
Manhattan.
Just to
Yeah.
make sure.
And we should clarify, we've never met before today, so
No.
we didn't know you were a massive Woody Allen buff.
Yeah.
Or I would definitely never.
Well, no, it's good. I either thought like, oh wow, someone else really likes this film, so I'm really interested that you picked this and you hadn't seen it before to pick it. So that's really interesting, and I completely take on all of your points. I'm there going, yep, Yeah. But
you love it, so that's good.
it's not my favourite.
No.
It'd probably be... I don't even know if it'd be in the top 5 anymore, because some of the more recent ones I think are a lot sweeter and with less dodgy undertones.
You'll have to watch the Amazon series for all of us and feedback.
For all of us.
Yeah, one of the reviews
You
said...
take the hit.
Yeah, you take the hit. One of the reviews I saw said, if you want to be entertained, don't watch this, just read all the reviews instead.
Okay, so I think we should do some scoring on this. So we have our own scoring system. So we have the first category, which is... I can never get
This
these
is
right. Recommendability. So really, it's how likely are you to recommend this to someone? 1 is not at all, God, never, please don't make me do that. And 5 is obviously most definitely. So let's start with you, Cathy.
I gave this a 3 because I would recommend it in the sense that it's a classic and I think people should watch, and I'm actually a bit embarrassed I haven't watched it before now. People should watch movies that have been so critically acclaimed and, you know, it's in all these top 100 lists. So I would recommend it from that perspective, and also it's nice to see New York shot in the 70s and it's interesting looking at it today's lens. So I'd be more recommending it for academic reasons than, you know, I wouldn't say to somebody, oh, you'll love this, go watch it. But I'd say, oh, it might be an interesting thing for you to view if you have a spare 90 minutes.
It is only 90 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
But a long 90
Long
minutes.
90 minutes.
What about you, Dave?
So I gave it a 4. I think I've pretty much the same reasons for Cathy. I would recommend people see this just to have an opinion on it. I think it is such an iconic movie. It's very nice to see New York in the 70s. It's shot beautifully. I thought it was funny. So yeah, I would recommend people see this.
Helen?
I'm going to give it a 5. I think if you haven't seen it and you've got any kind of interest in Woody Allen, then you really need to see it. You know, it's a good starting point, I guess, as well, if you haven't seen any Woody Allen, although Annie Hall's probably better. So those would be the 2 kind of ones to start with. I would recommend it. Obviously, hard to sort of say that, but it is what it is. It's a film made of that time, and it's kind of got all the Woody Allen tick boxes in. So
I think I'd give it a 3. I would recommend it to some people who are kind of film buffs. If they haven't seen it, say go and watch it, because a lot of people when they watch films, they don't take into account how what the shots are made up and how they're composed. And people do, I'd say, watch it because it does look great. And if you can watch it in a bigger screen, watch it in a bigger screen. But I don't know. I think I was perhaps the most creeped out by the age difference in the film, I think, than anyone here. So,
and I was pretty freaked out, so
Okay.
you must have been really freaked out. Especially because her youth almost like leapt out of the screen, didn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought the sad conversations. Yeah, I think she's not too young. She is.
Yeah.
She's as young as she legally can be. Yeah.
I think I don't know. I didn't look into the legalities of it, but I think there's this thing called statutory rape in America, isn't there?
Yeah.
And
Well, it's here too.
Yeah.
But the age of
Let's be clear.
but the age of consent here is 17, though, I think, isn't it?
16.
16. But I don't know what it is in the States.
yeah.
I imagine he just crossed it for the purposes of
It
the
doesn't
script.
feel right anyway,
Yeah,
whether it was legal
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah.
So, Cathy, repeat viewing score.
2. I mean, almost 0, but maybe 2 because, you know, I might want to watch it with somebody who hasn't seen it before. Yeah, who I vaguely recommended it to. I wouldn't be against watching it again.
Okay, I gave it a 3. I feel like I wouldn't watch this again anytime soon, but I feel like 10 years from now, when my memory's failing, I'll be like, maybe I'll have forgotten that I've watched this. I would watch it again way down the line, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen it. It must be at least maybe 10 times. Yeah, I was going to give it a 4. I mean, I've seen it loads, and I know people who are Woody Allen film fans, and they've seen it loads as well. I think in the past year, I've probably seen it. This is maybe the 2nd or 3rd time I've seen it this
In
year.
this year already. Oh, wow.
You should be a 5.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't think I'm not going to see it again this year.
Well, it is October.
Yeah,
You might get it before Christmas.
yeah. And I think having watched it again now and kind of gone, oh yeah, this is really not working in a present day light. And I think there's Woody Allen films that I've seen loads before that I would rather keep watching than this. So
Yeah. I'm going to give it maybe a 2. I can't see myself watching it really again.
No.
I'd recommend it to someone and leave them to watch it, and then we can talk about it afterwards. But I can't see myself watching. I'd rather watch Midnight in Paris.
Yeah,
multiple
same.
times.
I
I
want to
think
watch
there's
that again.
I agree.
so much more interesting stuff going on there. It's a lot more accessible, a lot more kind of fun, a lot more kind of. But there are a lot of references in Midnight in Paris. You have to know if you know who Scott Fitzgerald are and all the other writers and stuff. You
They're
do
pretty
get.
big though.
But some people just don't know that, do they?
They were the only references I got.
Yeah, probably me too.
I didn't get
That's why
any of the other Woody Allen ones.
You know, I thought it was his most mainstream references.
Yeah, by his standards, yeah.
Yeah.
Small screen score.
Small screen.
Oh, you watched it on the big screen, didn't you?
We watched it on a
We
projector,
cheated.
but I would say like small screen 1. I wouldn't recommend watching it on a small screen. Is that the right way to go,
Yeah,
or should
yeah.
I say
Yeah.
1? I would say I wouldn't recommend watching it on like a tablet, or
That's
because I
the
think
point with Netflix is that you can watch it on the phone, on the toilet.
yeah,
That's a long 90-minute session in the toilet.
yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. Well, maybe. And interestingly, I was reading when it was first released, it was one of the first like home VHSs to be released in letterbox, so they put black on top and bottom of the screen to make it in 16:9 as opposed to 4:3, which was standard video. So even then they were acknowledging it should be watched in
In that way,
widescreen.
yeah.
And I think like I wouldn't, maybe if you've got a very big laptop, but at least put it on your TV if you're going to watch it on Netflix.
Yeah.
I would say, because you're going to miss like the beauty of the composition.
Yeah, I give it a 2. I agree. You don't want to watch this on your phone. It's a gorgeous looking movie.
Yeah,
Yeah. See it in the cinema if you can.
yeah, definitely.
Oh, I give it a 3 on this. I mean, if you're watching it on Netflix, unless you've got the possibility of kind of plugging it into your big screen TV, then you're going to watch it on your computer. I mean, I've never seen it on the cinema. I've only ever really seen it on the TV. It would be nice to see it in film, but I think you could kind of easily sit there and watch it on your computer and maybe plug in the speakers to your stereo and
Yeah.
kind of get it a little bit like that. But I think,
Yeah, because the tunes were pretty good. Or
Yeah.
Gershwin.
yeah.
I think I'm going to give it a 2 because I think if I was to watch it again, it would be in a cinema. But I don't think I'd watch it again on my iPad or laptop or even on the
toilet.
on the toilet.
You're saying a lot about a movie if you watch it on the toilet. actually.
Well, that's a nice segue into engagement score.
Engagement score, yeah.
You're really engaged and you don't notice you're on the toilet for 90 minutes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
How engaged with how much did you feel you had to watch it once you started, that you had to kind of see your way through the whole film?
I could have turned it off and come back to it another time, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, we did watch the whole thing in one go, and I was compelled enough to keep going, so I'd give it a 3. But I don't think that you would maybe lose out if you stopped it halfway and came back again the next day. I don't necessarily feel that would have broken it.
Yeah, same for me, 3. I pretty much completely agree. I think probably best to watch it in one sitting, but I didn't feel at any stage that I couldn't walk away from it.
I'm going to give it a 3. I've seen it obviously loads of times before, and also I don't know anyone who kind of only really has sort of a passing interest in cinema, like, would probably get a bit bored after a bit. I'm not sure it would really engage with anyone sort of under the age of 30, really, just because they just find it too creepy and a bit boring. I think
Creepy and boring.
Yeah, I think because it's quite an obvious age gap for a teenager to
Yeah,
go,
true.
whoa, he's really, really old, like really, really old.
Yeah.
He's like,
And not
really
like sexy
old.
George Clooney old. It's like
yeah, they'd
scrawny Woody Allen
they'd
old.
probably put him older than 42. They'd probably think like this guy's like 60 or something. So I think for anyone sort of under, the age of 30, it's probably, unless they've got an interest in Woody Allen or, kind of film history, they'd probably just be a bit bored by it.
Or if they are a 17-year-old seeing someone
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
their 60s.
They're
What to see, what to
Very
do, what not to
appropriate.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to London. No, don't go to London.
The answer is always go to London.
I'll give it a 3 as well.
Oh, we get very
Yeah.
consistent scores here.
Yeah. So that gives us an overall score of 2.9. Well,
Take that, Woody.
Yeah. I like your
5.
score. It's really interesting because it's
Yeah.
specific to Netflix.
yeah.
I like the screen size question. I think it's a good one.
Thank you. Well, I mean, there's an interesting point you made about George Clooney before we finish. If it was George Clooney with, name a young person, Taylor Swift, how old is she?
she's all
early 20s maybe.
something.
Is she? Okay, George Clooney with a 17-year-old Taylor Swift. Would that have felt so icky, do you reckon?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I watched Out of Sight the other night, and I googled his age. I was interested, and he was in his mid to late 30s.
Yeah.
J-Lo was like 28, 29.
Right.
And that didn't jar with me. But I mean, that's only 7-8 year difference between consenting adults. I think George Clooney now in his 50s, if he was put with a 17-year-old, I would be grossed out as well.
Yeah.
There has been I can't think of anything specifically, but there has been a couple of times when I've watched films recently and gone, he's clearly at least 20 years older than this person, and we're kind of thinking it's okay.
Yeah.
And because it's not drawn a point to it, and obviously they're both Hollywood standard beautiful, then no one really picks it up. So I think there's a problem within Hollywood anyway, with sexism and ageism, and how you can be an old man on screen, but you can't be an older woman on screen.
Have you seen Amy Schumer's Last Fuckable Day sketch?
Oh yeah, it's really funny.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you should watch that.
Yeah, it's funny. But yeah, no, you're right. But it is an interesting question, I guess, around Woody Allen's perceived attractiveness. And you're right. I mean, if it was George Clooney at the age of 42, it wouldn't look so creepy. I have to say, I have to be honest, it wouldn't.
I think the other thing to point out is any James Bond film.
Well,
Roger Moore.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh God, Roger, but they're foul, those movies.
Yeah,
now,
I
when
can't
you
watch them.
What age was he in A View to a Kill? His last one.
Yeah, we watched that recently, and we were like, we were so repulsed. It was just disgusting. He was with it. She was probably 25, and he was 56.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Helen. I think Hollywood's been normalising that for way too long. They need to sort out their gender politics big time.
Yeah, basically, it's terrible. But then when it blurs into real life, in this instance, there's this whole extra layer.
Too much going on in just one 90-minute film, I think, really.
Yeah.
I love how many times we've said it's 90 minutes.
Yeah, it is 90 minutes.
If you have 90
so
minutes
if you have 90
and you're on the
minutes
toilet.
We could talk about this movie all day,
I
actually.
think we could do. But maybe we
we'll
should
stop now. Okay, well, it's been great to have you here.
Thanks, guys.
One last time, can you just give a little rundown of your podcast for us?
Oh, sure. Well, it's at theCinemile.com, and we're on Twitter at theCinemile, and it's just basically more of this talking nonsense, just walking home from the cinema. We'll have to have you guys on.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
And usually us
location.
arguing around gender roles in film as well, so that's interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it'd be great to.
So more of this, but without the jelly beans in the nice office.
We'll bring
the
jelly
rain.
beans. Yeah.
In the rain.
We're going to have rain instead.
We'll get
rain and stale
Bring your
popcorn.
umbrellas.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Well, there you have it, guys. We had Dave and Cathy talking about Manhattan, and you can find them at the Cinemile and the Cinemile podcast, which is awesome. So please check them out. Of course, we want to big up Tony and Jay, and also Greg, sometimes, our editors from GL Productions. Please big up Mighty People for the tunes you can hear now. And at the start of the podcast, come and subscribe to us on iTunes. Find us on Twitter at Flixwatcher Pod, and visit our website, flixwatcher.tv.